Good morning, students. In the previous class, you have studied the outermost whorl of the flower, the calyx, and in the earlier videos also you have studied many terminologies which are used to describe the calyx whorl of the flower. And now I am going to continue with the corolla part of the flower, corolla, the second whorl of the flower. Generally, the corolla is made up of petals, and it is the attractive part of the flower in general case, and it is meant for attracting insects and helping in the process of pollination. Okay, the purpose of corolla is, or the main function of the corolla is to attract insects which helps in the process of, or which takes part in the process of pollination, because color of the flower plays a significant role in attracting the insects at the time of pollination. And apart from that, it also provides protection to the inner two whorls of the flower, that is androecium and the gynoecium. And it is one of the accessory part of the flower, or non-essential part of the flower. As far as the corolla description is concerned, you have already learned in the previous video classes, you have learned what are the words which are used to describe the corolla. Firstly, you are going to count the number of petals. When you take a flower in your hand, then you start to study the corolla whorl. First, what you are going to do is, you are going to count the number of petals. If they are up to 10, it is okay, you can count. If there are many, you have to write as petals are many. For example, in case of multiple garden hibiscus, the petals are many. But in case of rose, again petals are many. If you are describing Caesarpinia flower, the petals are 5. So you write down whatever the exact number of the petals in the corolla. After writing it down, the number of petals in the corolla, you are going to check whether the petals are free from each other or they are in fused condition. If they are free from each other, you are going to describe the corolla as Polypeptidase corolla. And if the petals are fused, it is to be described as Gamopetalous corolla. Then the next part to be described in the corolla is the shape of the corolla. Okay, today I am going to continue with that part. I need not again repeat whatever you have learned with respect to the Polypeptidase and Gamopetalous corolla, description for that and all. Today I am going to continue with, in the corolla only, forms of corolla. Forms of corolla. Forms means shapes of corolla. Shapes of corolla. Okay. So when you look at the nature of the corolla, the impression what you get, that is the shape of the corolla. Maybe sometimes butterfly-like, or it may be cruciform. I will describe all the different shapes of the corolla. And the forms of corolla, actually the flower, when we describe the flower as actinomorphic or regular, and it gives the meaning that mainly the corolla is visible, the calyx is the outermost part. If the corolla and calyx is made up of the petals and sepals which are there in the corolla and calyx, they are of same size, shape, structure, everything, in that case it is going to make the flower actinomorphic. If you find the variation in the size of the petals or variation in the shape of the petals, also in the sepals, it is going to make the flower into zygomorphic. Actinomorphic flower is the one which can be cut into two equal halves in any angle. Any direction, if you cut the flower into two equal halves, then it is described as actinomorphic flower or regular flower. And if it can be cut into two equal halves in only one angle, for example, in case of clitorium, Shankapushpa, it is made up of 5 petals which are all free, but they are of different shape. There is a very big standard petal, 2 medium-sized petals called as wing petals, and 2 small keel petals which are fused to form a boat-shaped structure. Ultimately, this is going to make the flower into zygomorphic. So, in one particular angle, we can cut that kind of flower into 2 equal halves. So that in the forms of corolla also, we can study the different shapes of corolla under the same heading, Polypeptidase regular form. Okay, the same word, again it is going to repeat, Polypeptidase regular. corolla, three different shapes of the corolla. The first one is cruciform shape of the corolla. All these are the shapes of the corolla, and the cruciform shape, cross-like. The cruciform corolla is made up of 4 free clawed petals. We need not write it as free because it is already there. It is under the Polypeptidase heading. There are 4 free clawed petals. You know what is a claw. Some cases in some flowers, the flower or the petal is made up of 2 parts. A long or short stalk-like part, this is called as claw. Expanded colorful portion is called as limb. And it is not the general feature. In all the flowers you cannot make out, it may be present or may not be present. So if the claw is present or it is very distinct in a flower, in that case the petal is to be described as clawed petal. The petal with a claw is called as a clawed petal. And very specifically, the cruciform shape of the corolla is made up of 4 free clawed petals which are diagonally placed like the arms of a cross. So to draw the diagram of these 4 petals, 4 free clawed petals, they are totally free, okay? 4 petals which are completely free, and the claw is also free. Totally there, it is not tube, this is not the tube, these are the claws of 4 petals. And if this is the case, in this flower, you can make out that there are 4 petals and this is the claw part of the petal, so the petals are clawed in nature, and the petals are placed diagonally like the arms of a cross, okay? So if this is the condition, cross, 4 free clawed petals are diagonally placed like the arms of a cross. In that case, the corolla is to be called as cruciform shape. The shape of the corolla is described as cruciform shape. And you know, remember, the petal with claw is called as clawed petal, and 4 free clawed petals are diagonally placed, and in that case it resembles a cross. They are crosswisely, they are placed crosswise, and that kind of corolla is called as cruciform. This is the characteristic feature of the members which belong to family Brassicaceae. Family Brassicaceae members are example for cruciform shape of the corolla. Earlier, the old name for this family, it was called as Cruciferae. It was actually easy. Cruciform shape of the corolla is a diagnostic feature of the members which belong to family Cruciferae. But now the name is changed as Brassicaceae, that is mustard, cabbage, cauliflower, nolpole, they belong to radish, they belong to the Brassicaceae family, and the entire family is characterized by the cruciform shape of the corolla. Okay? Then, the next shape, Caryophyllaceous. Caryophyllaceous shape of the corolla. Here, the petals are 5 in number, 5 free clawed petals. Okay, there are 5 free clawed petals which are free in nature. All petals are clawed, but the limbs of the petals are at right angles to the claw. Okay, they spread in the outward direction. All 5, the limbs of all 5 clawed petals, they spread in the outward direction and it lies exactly at right angles to the claw. So you can draw like this. Fifth petal. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay. There are 5 free clawed petals with margin dissected like this. I will give the name of the example. And the claws of all 5 petals are free. But the exact position is, the claw is this and these are the limbs. Okay. The limbs of the corolla, it is at right angles to the claw. claw. And remember the number of petals there. There are 5 free clawed petals which are placed, the limb spread in outward direction and exactly opposite to the claw. Right angles to the claw. In that case, that shape of the corolla is called as caryophyllaceous corolla. And this shape of corolla is found in the members which belong to family Caryophyllaceae. You don't have the family in your syllabus, Caryophyllaceae, otherwise called as pink family. We get this plant commonly, it is found on the gates of our heart, roadside. We find the plants which belong to Caryophyllaceae family, and those members are example for caryophyllaceous shape of the corolla. Very specifically, you can quote the example of very nice looking garden plant, ornamental plant, Dianthus. Okay, very nice, very attractively colorful ornamental plant that is called as Dianthus, a small herb with very variously colored and variously dissected margin. This kind of corolla is found in case of Dianthus. Then the next type of corolla, rosaceous. Okay, this is the characteristic feature of rose family. Wild rose is the example. Because generally the rose is having many number of petals, and in this case it is limited, rosaceous shape of the corolla. The wild rose is having 5 free clawed petals, but the claw is extremely small. Okay, so here the petals are nice looking, but the claw is extremely small. When you compare the claw of rosaceous shape along with the caryophyllaceous shape, caryophyllaceous corolla is having sufficiently long claw, and the limb spread in outward direction exactly at right angles to the long claw. Here also the arrangement is same, they spread in the outward direction. All 5 free clawed petals, limbs spread in the outward direction, but the claw is extremely small. And it gives a very nice look to the corolla. You get 5 petals like this. And claw is generally, it is not visible in this case. So they spread in the outer direction, and it is an open, very good looking flower in case of rosaceae, but extremely small limb claw is present in every petal, and in that case it is to be called as rosaceous shape of the corolla. In all these 3, cruciform, 4 free clawed petals, and the petals are diagonally placed like the arms of a cross, and it is an actinomorphic flower also, cruciform shape. Caryophyllaceous, 5 free clawed petals in which claw is long, and at right angles to the claw, the limbs spread in outward direction, but the number of petals are 5 in this case. And in the third case, rosaceous, there are 5 free clawed petals, but the claw is extremely small, so that all the 5 petals, the limbs of all 5 petals, they spread in the outward direction, which gives a round rosette-like arrangement to the petals, and in that case, it is called as rosaceous shape. Generally found in the rose flowers which are having very less number of petals, 5 number of petals, and it is commonly found in wild rose. Okay, these are the 3 forms of corolla which are under the heading Polypeptidase regular form, caryophyllaceous, rosaceous, and cruciform shape. Okay, let's continue with the Polypeptidase irregular form. Irregular, or you can put it as, it's better to put it as polypetalous and zygomorphic. Zygomorphic. So you know the meaning of regular, irregular as well as the zygomorphic. It can be cut into 2 equal halves in only 1 angle, zygomorphic flower. But the corolla is characterized by polypetalous nature. The petals are free. There is only one shape in this, under this heading, that is called as papilionaceous. Okay, papilionaceous. Papilion, the word papilion, meaning is butterfly. It is a Greek term, and the meaning of papillon is butterfly, and it gives a butterfly look to the corolla. And in this case, papilionaceous corolla, it is found in the members which belong to subfamily Papilionaceae. CAE, Papilionaceae. So in case of Papilionaceae subfamily, all members, 100% members, we can identify the family based on this character only. It is butterfly-like corolla, and the corolla is made up of 5 free petals, because it belongs to, basically it belongs to Polypeptidase form. And in this case, you have already taken the example for many words also. The flower is made up of one big petal, that is called as standard petal, or it is called as axilla. On both lateral sides, you get the medium-sized petals called as winged petals, and 2 petals which are boat-like in shape, slightly fused, not so much fused. If you just disturb the fused portion, it will open up. It's not a perfect fusion. So these 2 petals which are going to form the boat-shaped keel, and these petals are called as keel petals. So if this is the condition, it appears like a body of a butterfly, wings of the butterfly, and this is a standard petal. And because the corolla is made up of one big standard petal or axilla, 2 wing petals are called as alley petals, and the 2 fused, slightly fused innermost boat-shaped structure made up of 2 fused petals called as keel petals, or it is called as carina. And in this case, this flower can be cut into 2 equal halves only in this plane. That is why it belongs to zygomorphic category. And this shape is called as papillon shape or papilionaceous, and it is a very important feature of subfamily Papilionaceae members. Okay, all these dals, green gram, black gram, and this tur dal and beans, all kinds of beans, they are characterized by the papilionaceous shape of the corolla. So these are the 4 shapes of the corolla under polypeptidase form: cruciform, caryophyllaceous, rosaceous under regular form, actinomorphic form, and the polypeptidase zygomorphic form. There is only one shape, that is called as papilionaceous. Okay. Now let me continue with the next heading, that is gamopetalous regular form. Gamopetalous regular. Basically, the corolla is made up of fused petals. When we use the term gamopetalous, it indicates that the petals which are present in the corolla are completely fused. And if it is fused, we are going to describe the corolla as gamopetalous corolla. And if the corolla or the flower can be cut into 2 equal halves in any angle, it is called as regular or actinomorphic. Okay. So there are many shapes in this under this heading. The first one is tubular. The word itself gives the meaning. All petals which are there in the corolla, they are fused completely, which gives tube-like appearance to the corolla. Tube will be having same diameter all along its length, so that in case of tubular shape of the corolla, there are 5 petals which are completely fused. So in the previous class, you have learnt the Papers kind of modification and this kind of flower. So you have seen, and this is the disc floret of sunflower. In case of sunflower family members. Okay, so all 5 petals are fused to form, this is the corolla. Okay, only we can count the number of petals there because all the tips are free. We can count the number of petals, they are 5 in number, but all along its height, the corolla lobes or the petals are completely fused, which gives a tube-like appearance to the corolla, and hence it is called as Second, next step. Campanulate or bell-shaped. Campanulate or bell-shaped. Okay. So in this case, there are 5 petals which are fused, and it gives bell-like appearance to the corolla. Okay. All 5 petals are fused. So it is totally fused, and here also we can count the number of petals because of the free tips. There will be 5 number of petals, but the petals are fused all along its height, only leaving the tips free. And the appearance of the corolla will be bell-like, broader at the base, constricted in the middle, in here, and it is again widespreading at the mouth of the corolla, which is exactly similar to a bell. And campanulate means bell-like corolla, found in the members of cucurbits. Okay, in case of pumpkin, the male flowers of pumpkin, male and female flowers of pumpkin corolla is an example for the bell-shaped corolla. Third, infundibuliform. Infundibuliform, or it is funnel-like. Okay, infundibuliform or funnel-like corolla. Funnel is different from bell. So it will be narrow at the base, gradually widening towards the top, and that shape is to be called as funnel-like. Okay. So in this case, 5 petals form the corolla. In this case also, there are 5 petals which are fused all along their height. Have you seen such kind of flower? This is called corolla of datura. Datura is very good example because it is having very long corolla, widespread mouth, and all 5 petals are fused like this, and it is funnel-like, narrow at the base, gradually widening towards the mouth of the corolla or towards the opening of the corolla, and in that case it is funnel-like in appearance. Okay, and funnel shape is technically called as, the technical term to describe the funnel shape is called as infundibuliform. Example, this is found in case of datura. Very specific example for funnel shape of the corolla. The next is called as Hypocretary Form. Write down the spelling properly. Pronounce the word properly. Hypocretary Form or salver shape. Okay, Hypocretary Form or salver shape. So in this case, Hypocretary Form, here the corolla is made up of 5 petals, and the petals are fused in such a way that you can make out the flower is Vinca rosea is an example. So there will be different parts in the corolla now, and the corolla lobes are spread in such a way that, the calyx, I have not cut corolla, so to make you to understand the different parts of the corolla here, the petals are fused in such a way that this is corolla tube. Okay, the petals are fused to form a narrow corolla tube which is tubular in nature. Just in the middle there is slightly swollen long and tubular in nature. Very narrow and long tube. At right angles to which the corolla lobes spread in outward direction. Okay, these are the lobes and this is the tube, corolla tube. The lobes spread in outward direction, so the flower appears flat. The lobes appear flat, but on the undersurface you will get a long, narrow, tubular corolla tube. And in this case, the shape is called as Hypocretary form. Hypocretary form, or it is called as salver shape. And the example is Vinca rosea or Catharanthus roseus is another name for the Vinca rosea. Catharanthus roseus is a member which belongs to Apocynaceae, which you are going to study in the taxonomy part of your syllabus. Okay, this is Hypocretary form. Then the fifth is called as fifth shape is called as rotate or wheel shape. Wheel like. Rotate or wheel like. So rotate or wheel like. Again, this is very much similar to the Hypocretary form, but here the corolla tube is extremely small. Corolla tube, if it is extremely small and lobes spread in outward direction like this, imagine the example. All of you might have seen this flower. These are the lobes which spread in the outward direction. Okay, this is the corolla lobes. These are the corolla lobes. And if you cut this, you will get the tube is extremely small, only this much. Okay, very small tube. And the difference between these two, the spreading is same. And here there is no swollen part, throat is present, but it is not so swollen as it is found in case of Vinca rosea. But this is the corolla tube, and the tube is here, and at right angles to it the lobes are spreading in the outward direction. But the major difference is the tube is extremely short, and the lobes spread in outward direction, which gives a wheel-like appearance to the corolla. Okay, it is rotate, means it is wheel-like in nature, and this is found in the flowers of Nyctanthus, Parijata, Nyctanthus and brinjal. You might have seen brinjal, chili, tomato flowers. All of them, they belong to one family, Solanaceae. And the brinjal, chili, tomato flowers are example for the wheel shape or rotate shape of the corolla. Or Nyctanthus Parijata is also an example for the same shape. So all these five shapes of the corolla, which falls under the category of Gamopetalous regular form. In all these five shapes, you can cut the flower into two equal parts in any angle, any plane. You can cut it. So that is why it belongs to regular or actinomorphic shapes. So first one is tubular, 5 petals completely fused all along its height, which gives a tube-like appearance to the corolla. Hence it is called as tubular. Found in the disc florets of sunflower. Campanulate or bell shape, 5 petals are present, but the petals are fused in such a way that it is swollen at the base and it slightly constricted in somewhere at the 2/3 portion, and it is wide opening mouth. So it gives an inverted bell-like shape to the corolla. So it is called as campanulate or it is bell-like. The third shape is called as infundibuliform or funnel-like. 5 petals which are fused all along its height, narrow at the base, gradually widening towards the mouth of the corolla, which gives funnel-like appearance to the corolla, and it is found in case of Datura. That's an example for infundibuliform or funnel shape of the corolla. The next is called as Hypocretary form, or it is called a salver shape corolla, in which the 5 petals are fused in such a way that there will be a long and narrow corolla tube at the base, slightly swollen throat may be there, and it may not be there also. Any other example if you get, there may not be a swollen portion throat, but corolla tube and the corolla lobes can be well differentiated, and the lobes spread in outward direction, and it is placed at right angles to the corolla tube, and in that case it is to be called as Hypocretary form, or it is called as salver shape. Then the fifth is called as rotate or wheel shape, exactly similar to the Hypocretary form, but The difference lies in the size of the tube. The tube is extremely short. Lobes are 5 only. There are 5 petals which spread in the outward direction, and it is also attracted as the corolla tube, and that is found in case of the flowers of Solanaceae, this tomato, chili, brinjal, and also Nyctanthus is an example for the rotate or wheel-shaped corolla. There is one more called as urceolate. Urceolate, urn-like, urn-shape. Urn-shape means again here the corolla is made up of 5 petals which are completely fused, and the corolla appears like an urn, swollen in the middle, gradually tapering towards both ends. This is the calyx, and it is totally fused. Okay, this is the corolla. Urn-like, and if you can see here, it's wider in the center. Okay, swollen in the center, and as you proceed downward as well as upward, it is gradually narrowing. Okay, gradually it is narrowing down. So it is narrow at the top as well as at the bottom, which gives an appearance of an urn. That is the pot which is used to store water, cold water we drink. That is called as hooging. It's called as hooging. And the urn shape is called as urceolate. You can remember easily. Urceolate is urn-like. All 5 petals are fused to form from top to bottom, wider in the center, gradually narrowing towards both ends, and which gives an urn-like shape to the corolla. It is called as urceolate shape of the corolla. So these are the 6 different types of corolla which belong to gamopetalous regular forms. Okay, this is one full question. Even polypetalous shape of the corolla is one full question, and they may ask every word as a 2-mark question. Every word is a 2-mark question. Apart from that, they can ask describe the different forms of gamopetalous regular corolla. So you have to describe all the 6 along with a diagram and specific example. So it is again one full question. Okay, I'll continue with the shapes of the corolla only. Gamopetalous irregular form. Gamopetalous irregular. Okay, so in this, the first shape is called as ligulate or strap shape. Strap, ligulate or strap shaped corolla. This is found in ray florets of sunflower. In the previous class you have come across with this also, disc florets and ray florets. The peripheral flowers of sunflower family members are called as the ray florets of sunflower. Generally the corolla may be made up of 3 or 5 petals. They are fused. Suppose if these are the 5 petals, tips, we can count the number of petals in the corolla here. Extends further into a tubular extension, having a slit on one side. The slit is having a slit on one side. This is the corolla tube. Okay, this is the flat portion. That is why there is a word called as strap. It is flat. We can count the number of petals in the corolla by counting the number of these tips. It may be 3 or 5 in number. Varies from one flower to other flower. 3 to 5 petals which are fused in such a way that there is a long medium sized corolla tube with a slit on one side and a flat lobe on the upper side. And at the bottom we find this is the ovary, calyx, and through this slit you can observe the style emerging out. Style and stigma emerging out of the slit present in the corolla. This type of corolla is called as ligulate or strap shaped corolla, found in the ray florets of Asteraceae family members. All of you agree this is a regular form of the corolla. It is gamopetalous, but it is irregular because this flower can be cut into 2 equal parts only in this angle. We cannot cut it into 2 halves in other angle. So this belongs to irregular category of gamopetalous corolla. Then the next is called as bilabiate or two-lipped corolla. Okay, bilabiate or two-lipped corolla. Here, in case of bilabiate corolla, the corolla is two-lipped, made up of 5 petals, out of which 2 petals are fused to form the upper lip and 3 petals are fused to form the lower lip. And there is a wide mouth in between, and it is also having a tubular extension. Get the flower like this. So this is called as upper lip of the corolla. This is the lower lip of the corolla. Okay, it is two-lipped. The corolla is having 2 lips with a wide mouth, wide gap between the 2 lips, and the tube is extremely short. Okay, and this 2 petals, this upper lip is made up of 2 petals, lower lip is made up of 3 petals. Totally, there will be 5 number of petals, and altogether all the 5 petals are fused to form a small corolla tube inside at the base. And this is the upper lip, lower lip with a wide gap between, wide mouth between. And this kind of corolla is called as bilabiate or two-lipped corolla. This is irregular form because it can be cut into 2 equal halves only in this plane, not in any other plane. So this is gyromorphic corolla, bilabiate or two-lipped, and this is found in the members of Lamiaceae. Leucas, Tulsi, Salvia are example for the members which belong to. Leucas is an example, common one. Salvia is also an example. Tulsi can be quoted as an example. You can check the Tulsi flower. You will get Tulsi at your home. Check it. There will be 5 number of petals, out of which 2 are fused to form upper lip, 3 are fused to form the lower lip with a small narrow tube. And in that case, it is to be called as bilabiate type of corolla. The third shape is called as personate. Personate. Okay. This is masked or closed. It's made up of 5 petals which are completely fused, and the fusion is in such a way that it's very difficult to draw the corolla also. It's completely masked type of corolla without having an open mouth on the top. So it's completely closed from the top. And this kind of corolla is found in case of snapdragon. Snapdragon is an example having masked corolla. There is no open mouth in the corolla. Completely it is fused, and the upper part of the petals are completely fused, and all along its height it is fused. That is called a snapdragon, and snapdragon is an example for the personate shape of the corolla. It is masked, very attractively colorful corolla, very nice looking. Inflorescence is produced in snapdragon, but the corolla is the petals are fused in such a way that it appears like a masked corolla. So these are the 3 different shapes: the ligulate or strap-shaped corolla, bilabiate corolla, and masked or personate shape of the corolla. It falls under the heading that is called as gamopetalous irregular form. They can be cut into 2 equal halves in only one plane. So if you write it as ligulate, it is also called as strap-shaped because made up of 3 to 5 petals which are fused in such a way that the lip upper part of the corolla is flat, and we can count the number of petals by counting the number of tips there, and at the base it is having, in the middle there is a slit, open slit, and at the base there is a tube which is going to end with the inferior oval, and the stylic stigma emerges out of the tube through the slit, exactly in the slit portion, and this flat corolla is called as strap-like or ligulate shape of the corolla. Bilabiate, 5 petals, they are fused in such a way that 2 petals are fused to form the upper lip, it is bent downward in the downward direction like this, and the 3 petals are fused to form the lower lip with a wide gap between the 2 lips, wide mouth, and very short narrow tubular structure at the base. And this is called as bilabiate or two-lipped, found in the leucas, salvia, in which you have studied the lever mechanism of pollination in third semester, and this is personate where 5 petals are completely fused in such a way that it appears like it is completely masked, and it is very difficult to find a gap in between the corolla lobes there. It appears like it is completely closed. So it is called as masked kind of corolla, or the shape is called as the personate shape of the corolla. So all these three belong to irregular type because they can be cut into 2 equal halves in only one plane. Okay. So these are the different shapes of the corolla now, and this is separate part. They may ask to describe the various shapes of camopetalous irregular form, or they may ask one full question for 10 marks. Describe all the camopetalous shape of the corolla. Then you must be able to describe all these 9 different types. 6 under the polypetalous regular form and 3 under the camopetalous irregular form. Okay. This is about the shapes of the corolla, different shapes of the corolla. Write down the words properly. Draw a small diagram by the side of the word and write one sentence description for every shape, so that you can bring it at the time of practicals and you can study the flower very easily, and you can use the proper word to describe the flowers in the practicals. That becomes easy to remember the terminologies, and this part they may not our teachers may not repeat it in the morphology part of the syllabus because the corolla is done in detail. Okay. Now the last part to be described in the corolla is estivation again, because you have done the same thing in the calyx also, and in the calyx you have studied the number of sepals, gamopetalous or polypetalous. If there is any shape you are going to mention, any modifications you are going to mention, and the estivation. The similar way, count the number of petals, write down the number of petals, see that whether they are free or fused. Based on that, use the terms, that is polypetalous or gamopetalous, and mention the color of the corolla also. You can mention whether it is normal petaloid, colorful in nature. Very rarely the petals may be green in color. In that case, it is to be described as cephaloid kind of petals if it is green, other than colorful nature. Then in that case, you are going to describe the shapes of the corolla under polypetalous as well as in the gamopetalous corolla. If it is there, you can mention. There is no definite shape. Hibiscus, we cannot there is no term to describe the hibiscus corolla there. There is no specific shape for that. And if all these under these 9 types, you can, if you get the example of this a sunflower family, if you are studying the Asteraceae family, in that case Asteraceae is represented by one sunflower or one genia flower is a head inflorescence made up of 2 types of corolla there. Peripheral flowers are example for ligulate or strap-shaped corolla, and the central flowers are example for regular form, gamopetalous regular form, that is tubular shape of the corolla. Datura family, you can write it as Datura flower. If you are describing, you can describe it as funnel shape. Cucurbids having bell shape. Vincarosia, Hypocretary form. Brinjal, it is wheel-like. So all these terms can be used to describe the shapes of the corolla. And if you find any modifications like spurred nature of the corolla, that can be mentioned, or sometimes the corolla may have the extension or extra decorative part to the corolla, that is called as corona may be there, and all such kinds of modifications are to be mentioned in the corolla only. And to end with the corolla here, you have to end with the estivation of the corolla or estivation in the corolla part, so that again the estivation, you know, valvate, twisted, imbricate, twincuntial and maxillary type of estivation. Because if you describe the corolla as papilionaceous here, polypetalous regular form, and it is confirmed that you need not check the estivation also, you can blindly write it as maxillary only. And it is so much related. Papilionaceous corolla, it is compulsory that the petals are arranged in such a way that the standard petal will be completely out, the 2 wing petals are partly in and out, and the 2 keel petals are fused, and which gives a boat-like shape to the corolla that is completely innermost in nature, and that is to be mentioned in the corolla. So that completes the second whorl of the flower, that is called as corolla, second part of the flower, the corolla. So that so far you have studied several terminologies to describe the flower, and we have to go on to the 2 more parts of the flower. Already you have studied studied the androecium and gynoecium, the terminologies also you know. If there is any additional feature, I will explain the next class. Otherwise, you are going to check the flower whether it is pedicellate or it is sessile. If the stalk is present, the flower is to be described as pedicellate flower, or it is to be described as sessile flower. Then you have to see that whether the bract is present in a flower or it is absent. Based on that, you are going to describe the flower as bracteate or ebracteate. Bract is always found like a small extra structure found at the attachment of the flower to the axis. Exactly. Sometimes the flower arises from the axil of the bract and stem. So that is the place where we find the bract. And the bracteoles are found in number 2 or 2 numbers, or they may be more in number. And the bracteoles are always found on the pedicel of the flower. The bracteoles are found on the pedicel of the flower. Generally they are found in 2 number, and if they are found on the pedicel of the flower, then it is to be called as bracteolate flower. And if there is no such kind of bracteoles in the flower, it is to be described as ebracteolate. So that pedicellate or sessile, bracteate or ebracteate, bracteolate or ebracteolate flower, actinomorphic or zygomorphic, that is the symmetry of the flower. Based on the symmetry, it may be regular, irregular flower. So asymmetric type of flower is also there. So asymmetric flower, example for that type is found in case of canna, where the flower cannot be cut into 2 equal halves in any plane. So that is not having any proper arrangement, because variation in the size and shape of the perianth, stamen and gynoecium, everything is very different kind of flower. So that is to be mentioned. Then you are going to describe whether the flower is hypogynous, perigynous or epigynous in nature. And in the case of hypogynous flower, the thalamus becomes a convex disc on the top of which the ovary is situated, so that the gynoecium, when we describe the gynoecium in such kind of flower, the ovary must be described as it is superior in nature. And because all the other floral parts like stamens, petals and calyx, they are going to arise from the bottom of the ovary. So the ovary becomes superior. Perigynous means again the thalamus becomes a cup with shallow depression, slight depression, in which half of the ovary is engulfed and half stands above that, and the remaining parts of the flowers are going to arise from flower, that is the stamen, petal and sepal are going to arise from the rim of the thalamus cup. So the flower becomes perigynous, and if you have described the flower as perigynous, the ovary must be definitely semi-superior, or it is to be described as semi-inferior. That is found in case of rose. Rose is an example for perigynous condition of the flower. Then epigynous flower, very easy to make out whether it is epigynous or hypogynous. Epigynous easily it can be identified because ovary is found at the bottom of the flower. You can make out, hold the flower upside down. If you find the ovary at the bottom, definitely it is a epigynous kind of flower, and it is found in all cucurbits where the thalamus becomes a cup with deep depression inside which the entire ovary is hidden, or it is engulfed, or it is embedded. And from the top of the thalamus cup, the remaining parts are going to arise. That is the type of flower which is described as epigynous in nature, found in apple, guava, and this jamun, that is nerle, and jambe is also example for epigynous condition of the flower. And all these things are going to be described in the flower. Then by counting the number of floral parts also, you are going to describe the flower as whether it is trimerous, tetramerous or pentamerous kind of flower. So threes and multiples of threes, if you find the floral parts, it is to be described as trimerous. Fours and multiples of fours, it can be described as tetramerous. Pentamerous, fives and multiples of fives. And in case of by looking at the accessory whorls, you can describe the flower as achlamydeous flower, where the flowers are naked without having any accessory whorls. If you can differentiate calyx and corolla, then it is called as heterochlamydeous flower. And calyx is green in color, corolla is colorful in nature. Homochlamydeous, again without differentiation into calyx and corolla, the flower is made up of perianth. So that these are the different terminologies which are used to describe the flower. After that, you know how to describe the calyx now, how to describe the corolla now. And I am going to continue in the next class with the next whorl, that is androecium and the gynoecium. So So far whatever terminologies you have learned, write down all the terms, write the proper spelling, pronounce